In this video, I will expose one of the main aspects of the New Year's False series. The little kid, Andrea's brother, is likely to have supported her false accusation of sexual harassment. In order to explain this very little aspect, or potentially very important aspect, I need to provide a little bit of background information. So during that episode, Andrea and I were in the same room, and she had a boyfriend back home, and we got in a sort of intimate position. She deliberately got into that position. She hugged me and placed one of her legs over my body, and that was partly intimate. We both had our clothes on, so there was nothing truly going on. But at one point, the little kid entered the room. He did not know what he had just seen. We both got up very quickly. I kicked him out immediately. However, the girl knew that the next day she was going to have a problem. To understand this, it is crucial to understand the relationship that the girl, Andrea, had with her brother. That was a destructive relationship. The girl caused problems to the little kid, and the little kid caused problems to Andrea. And that happened every time they had the opportunity to do so. So whenever the little kid saw Andrea do something bad, he was expected to go around and tell everybody. Therefore, she probably figured that he was going to do exactly that the very next day when she was going to try to talk to her boyfriend. So the kid would have gone there and said, I saw Andrea, she was in bed with another guy and blah blah blah. Now, in order to get out of that situation, she did something that most people are not capable of doing, and that is, again, textbook psychopathic behavior. So she tried to manipulate people, and she made this false accusation of sexual harassment in order to change the emotions of her boyfriend. So he would, at this point, based on the series of events, her boyfriend was expected to be jealous of what she was doing, and he would have been angry with her, and he would have caused her problems. In order to change that, she made up this false accusation of sexual harassment, and she tried to make it believable and present that version of events to her boyfriend. So then her boyfriend would be angry, but not with her. He would be angry with the person who sexually harassed his girlfriend. And how did she do that? So she had to manipulate someone to support her false accusations. And the easiest person in that environment to manipulate was her little brother. And the main reason was the fact that his actions were 100% predictable. So it was 100% predictable, maybe not 100%, 99% predictable, that the very next day when she talked to her boyfriend, the kid would have simply popped up out of nowhere and say exactly this. I saw Andrea, she did this, and again, blah, blah, blah. He did that before every time he had the opportunity to do so, so it was expected he was going to do that now as well. So what Andrea figured was that she had to change the content of what the kid said. So the kid had to present false information that supported whatever was convenient for her. So to do that, it was very, very easy. She probably just walked up to him and was like, yo bro, just don't tell anyone that he had his hand on my breast. And guess what? The very next second, the kid went around running, or just ran around and started shouting, Paul had his hand on Andrea's breast. He didn't care if it was true or if it was false, or he simply wanted to cause the girl, he wanted to cause his sister problems. So then when Andrea told him, don't do that, guess what? It was exactly what he did. So it was extremely easy to manipulate the little kid to do that. And my guess is that this is exactly what happened. In order to, well, first of all, there's a way to prove that a kid could have not known if I touched Andrea's breast. So he simply could have not known that. So if my educated guess is correct, and he made up not made up, but if he shared that information that I touched her breasts in any way, then it was either the result of deliberately lying to cause his sister problems, or sharing information that he had no idea if whether the information was true or false. So that's what happened, and this could have only happened in one way. Andreea manipulated him to do that. So regardless if the kid knew that the information was false, he still shared it because that didn't matter to him. It didn't matter if the information was true or false. What mattered was that he was causing problems to his sister, and that was his goal, that was his objective. He wanted to cause her problems. And when she told him, "Don't say that he touched my breasts," that's exactly what he did. So it was extremely easy to manipulate the little kid, and there is a way to prove that the little kid could have not known if I touched her breasts. So he would simply not know. He could have known that because her breasts were never in his visual field. So he opened the door, and it took us I think about a second, maybe less, to simply get out of that position, of that intimate position. So a 5 years old kid is unlikely to be able to recall the events correctly after seeing something for less than a second. And on top of that, again, he did not have visual access to her breasts. So the door of her bedroom is located to the front and to the left of the bed. So when the little kid opened the door, he could see the left side of the bed. And when he looked toward the left side of the bed, he was probably around as tall as the bed. He could have not seen past. He could have not seen above the bed. He saw that side of the bed and Andrea's back, and he could not see her breast. So based on the positioning of my body, it was self-explanatory that my face, my head, and one of my hands were around the same place as her breast, but there was no way to know if I touched her or not, because he simply couldn't see her breast. And I drew that on the whiteboard, so I'll take you to the whiteboard and present to you the truth. So this is the little kid, and he's very short, he's 5 years old. And as you can see, I wrote here, his visual field is limited by his height. So he cannot see very high because he's very short. He's probably like 1 meter or something. He was 5 years old. And then, bam, this is the bed. So this is the door. This is the little kid. This is the bed. The girl in red is Andreea. These are her breasts. And this is me in blue. And as you can see here, I wrote, the visual field is blocked by Andrea's back. And what do I mean with that? So in order to understand this, you have to understand that the door was located to the left of the bed. So it was in front of the bed and to the left. So when someone entered the room and they would look to the bed, they would see the left side of the bed. And maybe a little bit of the front, but mainly the left side of the bed. So then the little kid would see Andrea's back, and he could not see past Andrea's back. And why is that? So again, he was 5 years old, so he was very short. He was again like 1 meter tall, probably as tall as the bed. So his visual field was exactly here, exactly around the level of the bed. So he could not see what was on the bed. What he could see was Andrea's back. And he could see that I had my left arm on her back. So then he could not see what was happening behind that. So he did not have a direct visual field to her breast. He could only see the left side of the bed, Andrea's back, but he could not see past Andrea's back. So therefore, he could see that one of my hands was on her back, and if it was on her back, it wasn't on her breast. So then it suggests that Andrea's false accusation included having only one of my hands on her breasts, the hand that the little kid could not see. But again, the little kid did not have his visual field could not see. Again, the kid could not see her breasts because her breasts were not in the visual field of her kid. The kid could only see her back and the left side of the bed, but he could not see her breasts. So then what happened, I stood up And I got out of bed and I went to the kid and I said, get the hell out, and I kicked him out. And so there was no time for anything to happen. So that proves that the little kid could not support the accusation of sexual harassment because he did not see what was happening. Her breasts were not in the visual field of the little kid. And this proves it. He could only see the left side of the bed and her back. And he could see that I had one of my hands on her back. And that was it. And on top of that, as soon as the door opened, in like half a second, we both got up. So there was no time for him to process what he saw properly. And he was 5 years old. So what happened to me is very clear. So the first half a second or 1 second is not enough time to be able to say exactly what you saw. And he was 5 years old. So his idea of what was happening was probably not accurate anyway. But then the most important aspect was that her breasts were not in the direct visual field of the little kid anyway. So it's 100% impossible for the kid to be able to say, Paul touched her breast, because he could not see what was happening. And this proves it. Here's the conclusion. The kid lied. Or he said something that didn't know if it was true. He didn't know if it was true. He heard his sister say something and just repeated what the sister said. And this is my conclusion. Andreea manipulated the little kid to lie and present false information to her boyfriend in order to distract the fact that she had been caught in a negative position with someone else, and she did that to distract from that fact and give her boyfriend a reason to focus his emotions on something else, on supposedly being sexually harassed. Well, she wasn't sexually harassed. So that's, in my opinion, that's something that only a psychopath can do. Absolutely complete disregard for moral values and for everybody involved.